I forgot to change the name of this cube, which is the ground. Why don't we just call it water? Because when the ball falls through, it's going to be falling through water, say for example. It's going to fall into the water. So I'll go ahead and type in water. And then I need to create a water material. And what I want to do is this material is going to be transparent, just like water is transparent. So let's go over here to materials, make sure that folder is selected. I'm going to click on the create drop down, and I'm going to create another material, and I'll call that water. And what I can do to make this thing transparent, I need to change not just the red, the green, the blue. I also need to change what's called the alpha for this, which is basically just a word that means how invisible or opaque it's going to be. So with water selected, you'll see over here where it says shader. If I click down on that, standard is currently selected, and you'll see all of the various options that I have over here. Standard, FX, GUI, mobile, sprites, UI, VR. This one says legacy shaders. And so if I go over here to where it says transparent, and then I see this guy over here, whoops, sorry, transparent, and then I see this guy over here where it says diffuse. All right, so I'm going to select that guy. And then you'll notice that I can change the color for this by clicking over here on the main color. So I'm going to click on this guy over here, and let's make it like water, so kind of like a bluish color, something like this. You'll also notice that I have the alpha, and so if I were to change that, you'll see over here in the preview, and you can also see it over here, it's changing how transparent it is, and I don't want it to be completely transparent. I want to be able to see through that a little bit here. So let's see here, I'm putting mine somewhere around, let's say about 111, say for example. You can choose whatever you want. That's fine. And so then if I were to close this, and let's see what happens when I click the game, it's going to have a little bit of a transparency to it. Let's apply the new material to our water. So I'm going to take this guy, drag and drop it, hover it right on top over here where it says water, right there. And so that is now applied. Again, let me see. Okay, so I'm in my game perspective, so that's showing me what it looks like, based on my camera, and so I can't really see a whole lot. So I better go ahead and select the camera, and then basically just reposition it here. So let's see what happens if I click on Z and drag and drop. Okay, so let me zoom out a little bit, and how about I move it up a little bit more? Okay, so that's moving it up, and then I'm going to have to zoom out a little bit more, and I'm just making these refined adjustments over here. You'll do the same thing. If I wanted to rotate the camera so I maybe have more of an angled down view, you could have that as well. I'm okay with this. I think I'm going to be able to see the balls bouncing all over the place. They'll go through the water. That looks pretty good. But I don't like the sky background. If you want the sky background, that's fine. So you know that with the main camera selected, one of the things that we can do over here, it says skybox. Let's try some of these other things. So what happens if I say solid color? Oh, that's interesting. Or how about depth only? Again, very interesting. Don't clear. Okay, let's go back over here to skybox. And over here where it says background, so if I click over here, and let's see what happens when I change the color a little bit. So maybe I select this guy over here. And then, or maybe I select the background color over here to something darker blue. It looks like it didn't really change anything, and the reason why is because I don't have a solid color. I guess I'll just leave it at skybox, that's fine. Alright, the next thing I want to do is to select the paddle, and I want to add a rigid body to the paddle because my intention is to use the keyboard arrows left and right to move the paddle again to the left or to the right. So I'm going to select add component, and we're going to look for the rigid body. So let's see over here, I have physics, and there it is, rigid body. Select that. And the next thing that we have to consider is the usage of gravity. We don't want gravity to have an effect for this paddle, so I'm going to select this. And then we're going to select is kinematic to indicate that this is going to be taken out of the physics system, and the way that we're going to be updating the paddle is through script that we're going to generate. Let's now create a folder down here that will contain all of my scripts. So let me go ahead and click Assets, and then I'll click Create, and then Folder, and we're going to say Scripts. Enter. And then I can double click in here so that I can create a new script. So that means create a new C# script. And the name of that script is going to be paddle. Press enter. We are ready to create our script, so go ahead and double click on paddle, and then that'll take you to the mono-develop section, and let's go ahead and type some code. First of all, let me place my cursor up here, hit enter a couple of times, and the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to create a public variable. It's going to be of type float, and we'll call this paddle speed. And we could just simply put 1.0, say for example, with a semicolon. Let's also create a private variable. It's going to be a type vector3. Now remember, a vector3 is just simply a point in space. It has an x, y, and z axis. And we're going to call this player position. So in other words, when I use the left and right arrows to move this paddle to the left and to the right, I need to know its position. So what is this thing? Well, we're going to type in the word new, so that means that we're going to instantiate, or that we're going to be creating a new type of vector3 object, and it's going to be located at, okay, so for the x-axis we'll put that right in the middle, we'll put that at z. Now I don't know how far down that paddle is, so let me just go ahead and type in -9.5 for right now. I may have to change that, and put 0 over here, close parens with a semicolon. Alright, I'm not going to use start at this point. I am going to be using update, which is a function that's going to be called, as you can see here, once per frame. And so let's do this. Let's type in float x position. Again, we're dealing with the x position of the paddle. So we'll say that that is going to be assigned its transform dot position. Oops, sorry, position dot x. So I have some more data to type, or some more script to type, but what this is basically is the position of our paddle. And so transform.position.x, where are you currently located? Because wherever you're currently located, I also want you to move in accordance with whatever key I'm pressing, either the left arrow or the right arrow key. So the way that we get access to that is, I'll say parens input dot get access, and then by typing horizontal within parentheses, or within quotation marks, I'm referring to the left and the right hand arrow on my keyboard. And what I'll do is I'll multiply this times paddle speed. So paddle speed, and close parens, and then semicolon. Alright, because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be referring to this guy over here. Oh, you know what I noticed here? I'm getting this, this squiggly line over here. I think what I forgot to do is let me just get rid of the 0.0 and just type in the letter F, and that's going to indicate that this is a float. And I should really do the same thing over here. Type in the letter F. Okay, so that's fine. So this is going to be times the paddle speed. Looks, yep, everything is looking pretty good so far. Now let me go ahead and go to the next line here, and I want to say player position. And we are going to assign to this, again, a new vector3, which is just simply a point in space. It has a x, y, and z axis. And what I want to do is I want to update this player position. And the way that I'm going to do that is as follows. First, I'm going to type in this math f dot, and one of the functions that I have access to is this clamp. Now what clamp is going to be used for is for preventing, let me go back over here, I want to prevent this paddle from going beyond this wall and beyond this wall. So let's see here, let me select this wall, select wall number 1, say for example. Let me go back over here to scene view, and if I select that wall, it looks like the X position is at 10, this X position is at 10. So let me switch back over here. What I could do is I could say over here dot clamp, and then parentheses we'll say X position, because that's the value. Then we have to set the min and the max. And so the minimum, let's say that that's going to be negative 8f, because that's a floating value. And then we'll say positive 8f, because again, that's a floating value. I'll close parens there. So that's going to be my x position. And then we'll say comma, because this is a vector. And wherever that paddle is located, and I think we'll just type in 9.5 because I typed in 9.5 over here. We'll figure out where that paddle is positioned later on. And then 0f because it's not going to move in the y and the z-axis rather. And so I'm simply going to close the parentheses, semicolon, and then press enter. And then the next thing to do is to actually move the paddle. So the way that we're going to do that is we'll say transform.position. And where are we going to be positioning this? Well, that's going to be based on the player position variable that we created over here. Okay, so let's save our work. So we'll say File, Save, and let's switch back over to Unity. So here we are in Unity. There's my paddle code. I want to apply that to the paddle object on the screen. So I'll just take this, drag and drop it, hover right on top of paddle. And let's see what happens. So let me go ahead and enter into play mode. Uh-oh, compiler errors have to be fixed before you can enter play mode. Let's see here. Oh, looks like I've got something going on here. So let me go back over here to the code, see if I can figure out what I did wrong. Oh, I see what the problem is. There's the red squiggly underline. I just completely ignored that. I didn't assign this. I forgot the assignment operator because my intention is to assign this number 1, which is a floating type variable, into paddle speed. So let me go ahead and save my work. Now let me switch back over here to Unity. And let's see what happens now if I go into play mode. Okay, so here's play mode. Now, okay, so here's the problem. I didn't know where the paddle was located. I put it at negative 9.5, so I can't even see it here. So let's get out of this play mode. Let me see here. Let me select the paddle. This guy over here. And where are you located, paddle? So it looks like you're located at the y-axis 0. All right, so let me switch back over here to mono-develop, and let's just put you right at 0. And same thing over here. Put you right at 0. Then we go ahead and save. Switch back over here to Unity and enter into play mode. Ah, nice. There's the paddle. Okay, I'm going to touch the left or the right button. Touch the left button. Okay, so we're moving back and forth, but it looks like I didn't clamp quite enough. Now it is clamping, as you can see here. I'm moving to the left. Let me just tap, 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 tap to the right. Okay, so it is moving in a limited way to the left or to the right, but it needs to be further clamped. I want to be able to stop it like right there. Okay, so it looks like that's what, 7.6? Let me just see here if I can get it right there. So about 7.4 and probably what, negative 7.4? Let's see if I can tap over here. Yeah, so let's try like 7.4 and negative 7.4. So let me get out of play mode. I'm going to go back over here to mono develop. And your values are going to be a little bit different. It just depends on how you created your game. So let's go ahead and type in 7.4, negative 7.4, positive. Let me save. And let's go back over here to Unity. Go back into play mode. Click over here. Oops, sorry. I clicked 2 times. There we go. All right, so look at that. It clamps just before the wall. Perfect. That's exactly what I want. So now I'm able to move the paddle to the left or to the right. Let me see what happens if I press the up button. Nothing. If I press the down button, nothing. Because, and let me get out of the play mode, because that's what I restricted those axes. There's no y-axis, there's no z-axis. It's only the x-axis. And using math.clamp allows me to say, okay, yeah, you can only move this paddle from this range to this range.